Dave. It is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. And for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Chicago heavyweights Harm's Way. The band's new album, Common Suffering, will be released on September 29th via Metal Blade Records. Since 2006, Harm's Way have evolved from whispered underground favourites to favourite sons with an arsenal of songs that helped shape heavy music's trajectory, creating a roadmap for legions of copycats interested in reinventing themselves.
Fuck it, I love our press statement. It just throws fucking shade. Throw it! Cast it out like a line, Dave.
There is only one Harm's Way. One that has never stayed complacent and constantly morphed shape, absorbing and reapplying influences in new and creative ways to create some of the most well-executed songs in heavy music. And yet, considering the challenging changeling that they and their previous efforts are...
I love our press statement that challenges Dave's reading ability. Just fucking cast it out.
Jesus Christ. Common Suffering is easily the most musically diverse undertaking in their catalogue and their most impressive. Common Suffering shifts the paradigm for heavy music and is a modern classic in weight.
Ooh, bold!
This is Harm's Way at their best, the ambitious sound of a band traversing new ideas and succeeding with their strongest and most fully realised effort to date. We really tried not to settle on parts, recalls guitarist Nick. Sometimes a direction that we could have taken in a song felt too obvious. We would just troubleshoot that until we felt creatively satisfied with the direction that we were taking. The key to success may be a shift to recording at Studio 4 in Pennsylvania with producer Will Yip, who has worked with Turnstile and Code Orange. Going into the recording, the goal was to improve some of the band's processes, examine vocal cadences, and experiment during production to gain the best idea from each track. The first change dealt with refocusing members on their specific wheelhouses. While vocalist James...
There's so much management speak on this, it's nuts. I'm loving it. This is how you reorganise a fucking company.
Yeah, while vocalist James had previously assisted with riffs, on this effort his main objective was to ensure the best vocal attack, leaning to Will Yip for advice and letting the remainder of the band take the wheel with their respective parts. The result is each individual pushing to the far reaches and creating material that has previously never been colonised by any band or hardcore writ large before. The title Common Suffering is a clear nod to the collective experiences of the past 3 years of chaos, misanthropy, paranoia, disorder, confusion, and anxiety, with the band exploring themes ranging from personal struggles with mental health, relationships, political upheaval, corruption, and political power. There we go. Okay, so yeah, Harm's Way. My introduction, I suppose, to Harm's Way was their 2015 album Rust, which I kind of just fell in love with, to be honest, when I first heard it.
They do have a particular Davey aura about them.
Yeah.
I mean, like if a sim could be a aftershave, I imagine Rust would be what you'd spray on yourselves. So
100%. That album still gets plays from me. It's a banger of an album. Absolutely loved it. Posthuman was a strong follow-up as well. I liked the progression and the kind of subtle changes that they made. But you know, it's never like a huge dramatic change that you get with this band. It's always like small tweaks to the style or to the arrangements. You know, a little sprinkling of noise rock or a little industrial, you know, thrown into the mix. But it never sounds like they've just been like, right, let's wipe the slate clean and just let's start again. They've always...
all this shit's off the table here. You will learn to play guitar upside down.
Yeah, they've always kept it very blended with their core sound. And this album is another continuation of that growth and the kind of evolvement that they've been flexing on the last couple of albums. They said, obviously, they've really been taking their time on this one to find that kind of right level of satisfaction and a part before saying, like, that's it, done. And I think you can hear that on this album. This album sounds leaner. definitely feels more thought out, as the press release will demonstrate as well, and probably more balanced as well in terms of style overall. Again, like Harm's Way have cleverly given you a hardcore album without giving you a straight up hardcore album, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This is like very, very varied across the board. They've got, the moments where they lean more into that like noise rock territory on tracks like Hollow Cry, which also has this really kind of cold, kind of industrial undertone to it as well.
Not the only track, Dave.
Not at all. You've also got Undertow featuring Christina Esfandiari of King Woman, wearing the t-shirt, which has this really like doomy, ghost-like atmosphere about it, while still being absolutely crushing at the same time. Or you've got tracks like Terrorizer, where they fully embrace that industrial side.
Oh, it's a big, nasty industrial bitch. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Of a track. I mean, it's a big, snarling mechanical monster coming to eat your bobby. It's, you know what I mean?
That may or may not be true. But then you've got like the album closer as well, with a track featuring the most clean vocals that I've ever heard on a Harm's Way track as well. But they've integrated those tracks very cleverly into the album. So those tracks kind of create these little shifts in the album, which give you like a clear switch up that makes you feel like you're getting something very varied, and also that will hold your attention as well. And amongst all that, you've got Harm's Way doing what they do best, and that is just fucking laying waste to everything around about them. Once again, like some of the riffs on this are fucking disgusting, like in a different way from before though. I think the production is part of that. The guitar tones they've gone for are less kind of typical hardcore, and have more of an industrial kind of quality to them.
At times it reminded me a little bit of Gojira.
Oh yeah, very
like,
quite clinical.
See when they sink into like a groove, like a headbang groove, it just it reminded me of that. We call it French production. That doesn't sound great, but it's the closest thing you get to where there's a ton of those French metal and death metal bands that just have a sound that's just like, all right, that's that, and part of it's that kind of cold mechanical feel about it.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree. It's got that very metallic machine-like feel to it, but it kind of makes those heavy moments feel even bleaker than before, because this is a dark album, which makes sense considering the themes on the album, but tonally it feels very kind of gloomy overall, but as kind of ominous as it gets, there's still moments on here where the riffs still make you kind of crack a smile. There are like moments on here where you just feel like your jaws kind of like open. The end of Devour for me was just like so heavy, like it's utterly pummeling the end of that
all
track.
It's missing is for like the guitar just to start ringing out, and the singer just to point at the drummer just to hit fucking China a couple of times and come in. So it is so fucking nasty. Yeah. Then you've got tracks like Heaven's Call, which is one of the longer tracks on the album, and it goes from this kind of more kind of ambient, kind of spacey intro into one of the most charged tracks on the album. It's very dissonant. It's rhythmically huge, and James's vocal tone is completely savage on the track. He doesn't disappoint on the album at all. I think his tone is very, very percussive, very violent. He goes, completely scorched earth for the majority of this, and I think I really liked his kind of rhythmical choices. They are spot on. I love how he accents a lot of the riffs and the drums to give it even more impact. That track, Heaven's Call, is paired up really well with Cyanide, which is again very kind of rhythmically driven. Loads of guitar and bass drum kind of sync ups that sound really cool on the track. Those two tracks are pretty intense as a duo, which they then kind of slow down into that industrial track, Terrorizer.
which
so
is
fucking
just
heavy. It's needlessly heavy.
It's bleak as anything. But that then bleeds into Sadist Guilt, which is a bit quicker in places, giving you a bit more intensity. It wasn't my favourite track on the album. I felt like maybe riffs and arrangement wise, it was a little bit too simplistic. I liked the end riff that came in, but the rest of the track was maybe a little bit underwhelming. The closing track, Wanderer, was a really epic way to finish the album. It's the longest track, and it does hear the band experiment a little bit more with the kind of clean vocals, huge atmosphere, which works really well. It's got a killer closing riff as well, which is slow and really kind of sludgy, which I enjoyed immensely as well. The production of this for me, plays quite a big part in the album. I think the production from Will Yip is fucking ace on this. Different from the previous albums, but also doesn't sound like too out of place either. If you like the sound of like Underneath by Code Orange, then I think you'll probably enjoy the kind of tone of this one. They're different sounding albums, but also share kind of similarities as well. I really enjoyed this. I think it's another really good addition to the Harm's Way catalogue. When I went back and listened to Rust again because I love that album. It's maybe not as this album's not as like, how would I put it, kind of riff identifying as some of their previous material, if that makes sense. It's a little bit more kind of nuanced in places. Definitely the most developed the band have ever sounded. Still heavy as fuck, but I like the fact that they are still experimenting and trying new things, and don't want to just keep putting out the same album, which a lot of hardcore bands do. I think I enjoyed this more with each listen. My first listen was like, yeah, it's pretty cool, and then as it kind of went on, I started to kind of notice more things about it. There's more in the detail there. It wasn't as instant as an album like Rust. But as I said, there's more beneath the hood if you take a closer look at it. What about yourself? What do you think of this one from Harm's Way?
So I remember Rust coming out. I remember you talking about it because that was back when we were actively reviewing albums in another time and another place.
Yeah.
In another age, Dave.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, like this band had fallen off the radar for me completely. So I had listened to nothing until this, and I'll be honest, listening to this, I found it difficult to connect the band that I remember versus the band they are now, and that's not a negative. So this is like, for all intents and purposes, you could argue this is the first Harm's Way album I've listened to,
right?
Because I remember so very little. I'm not as diligent as you going back through back catalogues. Don't read press statements either. Some people would say lazy, Dave.
Some people
They would say, look at this lazy bastard. What I would like to say is I like to come into these things pure. Unsullied with opinions from previous things. Untainted by the watchful eye of previous releases.
Those are not words I would associate with you, Duncan.
100,
pure, untainted, no.
Saint-like in my approach to, to me, I was very excited about this one because, first and foremost, rocking the t-shirt, love me some King Women, and the only single I had heard was the most recent one that they put out there, which is Undertow, where she herself makes a guest appearance.
And I said to you, I bet you it's a middle of the album kind of breather track.
Perfect.
Where did it land?
This is how you called that because you understand song placement on an album. A lot of bands would put this at the fucking end, which would be a waste.
Yep. Agreed.
Like, so they left the last track fucking smartly as the last track because it fucking works as the last track. The first thing that hit me about this one is, oh my dear God, how fucking punchy is that production?
Yeah.
Its production is huge. It's modern as well. This is like this to me is like the modern kind of metalcore production that I love.
Yeah.
Where like everything just sounds savage and massive, and you don't need to hit a big fucking beat down, breakdown, whatever we're calling it these days. You don't need to hit any of those to get the heaviness.
Yeah,
if you sink into a chug, it sounds heavy as fuck.
I know what you mean.
it's very modern, but it doesn't sound like synthetic or like, or plasticky, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the modern productions do it. This doesn't have that at all.
Yeah, that last Code Orange album, not the stuff they've been doing this year, but the previous Code Orange, it was a prime example of that. That's something that just sounded vibrant, but it wasn't as if someone had spent. You weren't sitting there saying someone has painstakingly synced up every bass drum and then changed the sound of it. It didn't sound like that at all. It just sounded like vibrant, fresh, and modern. And that's on here as well. But there is this dystopian, industrial sheen across everything that I fucking love. It's just got this chrome metallic snarliness, which does actually really suit hardcore music. Like good old-fashioned, like pummeling metal hardcore production is very akin to that kind of dystopian industrial production. They occupy a weird similar ground, even though musically they're quite far apart, which is why Terrorizer works so well, because you're getting a lot of intensity and a lot of punishment. And when that track kicks in with its relative monotone tempo and just like steady fucking punishing groove, especially its placement on the album, once again I keep coming back to the placement of the songs in this is borderline fucking genius. It just really, really, really fucking works. There's so many bits here where the band let the riff kind of guide you into the bit that you should be headbanging and then transition to something else. It's tight as fuck. Like whenever they're all locked in goodbye neck muscles. I love the vocals on this. I didn't know that, so I'm assuming, is it a vocalist guitarist?
He's just vocalist.
Right. But in the press statement it said that he focused a lot on the guitar work.
I think he wrote some of the riffs prior to this.
Cool. Well, I'm just going to say
the Running Man, Harm's Way. That's him. No.
Is it?
Yeah. That's the vocalist.
Did not fucking know that. Right. There we go. This is an education piece for everything, Dave. I'm at the School of Dave, learning from the master. What I liked about this is, like, actually he's treated these vocals, you mentioned it, he's treated these vocals like a guitar.
Yeah.
So instead of actually writing riffs, he's treating it like a guitar, and as a result, the rhythms are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like the way he delivers things is very inventive. It's very quirky. At times, it's surprising. You're like, all right, I know what the rhythm is. Here we go. And then he comes in with something else, and it stands out. The attention to that, and also his ferocity, his tone is fucking great. It really, really works. The use of melodic vocals at the end, fucking perfect. You've smashed our face in for the entire album. The last track is the track you want to include a bit of something that lifts it up and leaves it on a different note, even though the end of the track is snarly as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, you put King Woman on an album and her use here on Undertow is fucking sublime. Right in the middle point, she gives you that kind of breathy, smoky tone, and then it's juxtaposed with absolute fucking throat scraping savagery. It just works. Devour might be one of my favourite headbanging songs this year. The close of that track is just like, I was like, if the band aren't doing it, I'm screaming again, fucking hitting a cowbell to keep them into play it again. It's just such a beastie groovy riff to close out on. And what I realised, like especially upon the third listen, was just how well everything holds together. I've mentioned like production styles, that kind of French sound that they've got. I've mentioned like the fact the vocals do things quirkily, but it's the placement of the songs and the flow of the album. They have 35 minutes to shine here, and they actually really do it. I don't think it's the most revelationary album I've ever heard. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, they have carved the way from hardcore bands to continue playing their metal wares. I don't think that, but by God is this album just fucking full of itself. You know what I mean? This is the porn star that walks on the set with a 9-inch dick. You know what I mean? Right, sure, he might only be able to shag for 35 minutes, but 9-inch dick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has that. It just has infinite confidence. Like, just like the assurance of, we got this. And the fact that you're saying that they continually are tweaking and changing things up, I think bands should always be doing that. I think the moment that you move into another album just to do the album you've done before is probably when you should stop playing music. Like, you should always be pushing something, even if it's only on one instrument, trying to change the paradigm, as used in the press statement. Great use of the word, and get out the comforts of your wheelhouse. Terrible use of a word in a press statement for a metal band. Never use wheelhouse again. But like, if you continually are trying to grow, even if it's incremental, that's the sweet spot you want to be into. Like, the album that you do now is relevant now. It's not relevant 6 months after you release it. It's in the past. And this is a great example of modern hardcore / metal done at its best. I thought it was just a very, 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 very easy, heavy as fuck listen.
Yeah.
I mean, I fit into, like, this was like slipping into a warm bath. You know what I mean? It just fit straight away, and I was like, all right, I know what we're getting. Let's do this. And right to the end, it gave me some surprises, but by the end, I just felt satisfied by it. So yeah, I thought this was really, really good.
Yeah. Nice. So scores for this new album from Harm's Way. I enjoyed it. Maybe wasn't like more like a cold bath for me, slipping into a cold bath for me on this one. Just that whole kind of like industrial kind of feel.
Damn sexual Tyrannosaurus, yeah, for a wee cold bath. Keep it down, Dave. Hold.
But yeah, I was trying to think like where I would rank this on like the Harm's Way back catalogue. Not as instant as Rust, and probably not as memorable overall for me, but still thoroughly enjoyable. And I love the fact that they're still pushing the boundaries, still trying to tweak their sound as they go. They're not going to give you 2 albums that sound identical, and I love that. Production is awesome on this one, sounds killer. I'm going to go 4 out of 5 on this one. Duncan, what's your score?
Twinsies, 4 out of 5. I think this is fucking great. Holds together really, really well. It's an album that invites you to press play again on it. You know what I mean? I kind of love about it, and they've mastered not only the song placement, but the length of the tracks and the content overall. I mean, another song on here is one song too much for me. So this it really, really, really is a concise delivery and savagery, and it made me smile. Also, I fucking love the album artwork. Absolutely, it's my jam. Absolutely my jam. So yeah, I had heard you before. I'd forgotten a lot about it. So this is my introduction back to Harm's Way, and let's just say it's been a pleasant evening.
Excellent.
I'd have you back over.
Harm's Way, Common Suffering, out on September 29th on Metal Blade Records. Links below to the band and to their pre-order on Bandcamp. Check it out. Let us know what you think. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.